Hi, this is Roger. This looks remarkably like a how to pot my Dendrobium video, but I don't do how to videos, so it just can't be, can it? It's not a how to video, it's a me potting my Dendrobium video. And there may be some tips in there, who knows. First of all, essentials. AM, this would be a coffee. PM, it's a glass of wine. I've earned it. A pair of pliers. I've got some wire cutters. These are Bonsai wire cutters, and anybody who knows a little bit about engineering can imagine with a little tiny pair of sharp blades like that and handles that long, that will cut through anything. This is serious stuff. My scissors that I use for trimming are standing not in Jack Daniels but actually in 70% rubbing alcohol. Those have just been sharpened. I cannot stand a blade that's not sharp. There is no point in having it. So those have been sharpened. I use an old-fashioned sharpening stone. Ready to go. In preparation we have some medium bark. We have some small bark. It's all like Orchiata bark. And I have some large bark. I don't need much of that because that's just to go in the bottom of the pot. It's sort of like crocking. No additions, because this is a Dendrobium. There won't be any moss added, there won't be any sponge rock, giant perlite, there won't be anything but bark going in this, because this plant doesn't need anything other than that. To keep it moist, I will water it. And because it's only in bark, it's going to dry fast. It's got nothing to hold the moisture. And that allows me to water frequently, get food into the roots when I need to, and in the winter time when I'd actually like it to dry quite quickly, it will oblige because it's in bark. If I had a load of moss into this mix, it's not going to dry quickly. Now if it was a different type of plant, that would be exactly what I want, but in this case I need something that's going to dry fast. So as Prima Donna's got a problem, I thought I'd start with this one. I'm only going to do one. Once you've seen one, you've seen them all. And if it was a Phalaenopsis, I wouldn't be doing it because there's about 50 on YouTube at the moment. And if you don't know how to repot a Phalaenopsis now, then you probably never will. However, this is a Dendrobium. This is Prima Donna. Put the tag somewhere safe. It usually gets buried in the heap of compost that's going to come out of the pot. Now in this particular case, the first thing to do is de-scaffold it because it's got wire holding it in place. So the wire cutters come into their own. And we get the scaffolding off. And if it falls in the pot, it really doesn't matter. Little clips holding things in place. It is a leggy plant and it's incredibly top heavy. And that's just how they are. What else have we got here? We've got some raffia helping things out. We'll have that off. It's all over the place. That's going to go in the recyclable rubbish because it is. This rubbish isn't there yet, it hasn't come out of the pot, but it will be soon. I've got plant clips here. So we keep them to one side, they're reusable of course. There's quite a few of them. I wish I'd taken these off beforehand now. This is not exactly exciting taking plant clips off, but it has to be done. You have to get your plant loose. It's got to come away from all of its things that are holding it in place before you can deal with it. So stakes are out, scaffolding is off. The only other thing I need to do is get these little hangers off. They just unclip from the edge of the pot. You need to go careful with these little spring clip plastic hangers because they only work if there is a good lip on the pot. And some pots don't have that luxury, and you put the clips on and you hang your pot up and you turn your back and it falls straight down on the floor. Which is not good, of course. Right, there we go, de-scaffolded. All the clips are off. Oh, missed one. Come on, out you come. Right, now all the clips are off. I've got short, delicate new canes down here. Yeah, I don't want to break those, so those are to be taken care of. I've got some old canes that have lost their leaves. but not that many on this plant, so they're going to stay. If there were loads of them, I'd trim them off. Right, let's get the thing out of the pot. And as I said, this has got some white spots on there, so there is some mould. I always give my pots a good squeeze, and any roots that are attached will hopefully come off. Now, this pot is almost dry, and there's a reason for that. I don't want to get in a mess. Right, pot out of the way. Just realised I've got one thing missing here. New pot, but we'll worry about that in a minute. See, now this has been in here a while, taking care of the new canes with your fingers. I've got to detach this from its bark, and it's going to be difficult. It's actually going to be very difficult. I think what we'll do, as watching me do that is tediously boring, so with the magic of cameras, I'll shut down, give this a good clean, and come back when we've got a sort of reasonably clean root system. And as you can see, it is a very extensive root system, and the last time I repotted it, I did actually put some moss in there. I won't do that this time. Okay, it's the magic smell of mushrooms. Unfortunately, they're the wrong sort. So let me give this a good clean up, and yeah, I'll be back shortly. Okay, I'm back. That took that long. Yeah, that was hard work. That was exactly how a lot of dendrobiums like to be. Really jammed in the pot. The roots have taken over the world inside that pot. That's probably why it got left in there a while. Now, under normal circumstances, we would go through the process of trimming off the dead roots. But quite honestly, there aren't many. It's a pretty good root system. There are a few little, you know, wiry bits where bits of roots have died off, but if I get in there with the scissors trying to thin that out, all I will end up doing is snipping off the odd perfectly good root, which is not my plan. So basically, the idea of putting that back in the same size pot has gone out of the window. I always have a judgment call once I've got my plant bare rooted, like that. And the old pot, given the way its root system is heading downwards, yeah, it was starting to wrap around the top because there was no more room to go downwards. It was so tightly packed. So basically, this needs a deeper pot, and then it can fill that up as well, which will make it a stronger, healthier plant. There's also a bonus side to using a larger pot. It'll be a bit more stable because this is top heavy. So that's cleaned up as much as I intend to do. There's the odd bit of media still buried up in there, but I just can't get at it. And it's little pieces, it's not a big deal. The world will not end. Some good roots got damaged, a lot didn't. And that's all I'm interested in. Most of the brand new roots are coming out near the base of the plant, and I looked after those. So, plant in pot. Big stuff in the bottom first. I'd have preferred this to be an air cone pot, but it isn't. It's a flat based pot. But this plant is going to fill this pot in such a short time that it really doesn't matter. As long as air can get in the pot. I mean, I've seen people with an air cone pot with lots of holes in the bottom and even some slits down the side, and the first thing they do is put a load of moss in the bottom. Well, you've just stopped the air getting in, the whole point of the pot. So crocks, it's nothing more than larger pieces of bark. Because of the nature of these roots, this is going to be a mix of medium bark, which will go in first, and I'll tickle that in between the roots and get a lot of that in the pot until the point at which I get up to about 2/3 up the pot, at which point I'll mix in some small bark with it for the fine roots near the top. So that's going to be what's going to happen. I'm just sorting through, because although this is good quality bark, you still get manky bits now and again. And just a quick sort through gets rid of them. So, yay. Right, and then comes the wonderful bit. The magic. I don't know why people do get so flustered over this sort of thing. If this was a geranium, you'd chuck it in the pot and not think another thing of it, wouldn't you? The fact that it's an orchid, everybody gets worried. It's just a plant, to any extent, like most others. Right, front and back. There isn't really a front and back to this, but there sort of is. Because although this here is a new growth, and this here is a new growth, there's new growths coming out all around the plant. So this really is the only bit that you could call the back, because it hasn't got any. So I want to get that over to as close to the pot as I can. So what I will do is push it away from where I want it to be. That will allow me to get some bark down in there. Now I work with dry bark, and the reason I work with dry bark is if I tried to do this with wet bark I would fail. The reason being, it would start sticking to the pot, it would start sticking to the roots. So having wiggled a little bit in towards the centre, now with this type of plant, if I miss some, in other words, if I leave some gaps in the root ball where there's no bark, so what? They like air around their roots, and if there's a pocket with no bark in it, they'll fill it with roots. It's not a big deal. If it was a Masdevallia, it would be a big deal because it would be an air pocket which would allow that section to dry out, which you don't want because it's a Masdevallia. This is a Dendrobium. They like some air around their roots. So having got that round the back of the plant, now I can turn it round that way and push the whole thing right back over there, knowing that down in there I've already got some media, so I don't need to worry about that bit anymore. And we can start moving around here. The wiggling process is however you want to do it. I know some of you can't stand getting your fingers dirty. Well, that to me makes life difficult. That just makes your life difficult if you don't want to get your hands dirty, because you're mucking around with gloves. I can't stand gloves. I don't own a pair of gloves. I don't even wear gloves outdoors in the winter when it's snowing. I like my hands free. So I'm not poking, I'm using one finger. This is not getting compacted tight. I'm not using a hammer handle to actually weigh it in there. The idea being that when I've finished, it will be quite firm in its pot and won't wiggle around, and there'll be some media where most of the roots are, not necessarily all of it. Okay, so I'm about 2/3 of the way up. Already that's firm in the pot. Yeah, so we're winning. We're getting where I want to be. Now what I want to do is just have a quick look round and see if there are any air pockets I can deal with. And there's the odd one I found. So that wasn't a bad go. And if you look round the pot, whoops, didn't wobble it, it will come out. Most of the roots aren't visible, and that's because they've been pushed in slightly towards the middle, and then they can spread out now and actually find their way out into new media. So I need a bit more big bark, but not a lot. And then I want to move to the smaller stuff to get up around the top of the pot. So we'll have a handful of that. Mix that with some big stuff as well. Any manky bits? There's one. You do get, I mean, even though this is good quality bark, there's still bits in there that's the sort of thing I don't like. That's not a lot of good. That's not hard bark. And they do show up quite easily, and you can just put them on the rubbish pile. Okay, and then I can carry on filling with the finer bark up towards the base of the plant. We all know that we don't bury the base of the plant, don't we? Of course we do. If you bury the base of the plant, you are encouraging the possibilities of the base of the plant rotting if your media stays wet, which this media won't, so I can get pretty tight to the base of the plant knowing that it'll be okay. Bit more manky bits. 1, 2, that's not bad. Okay, so we're nearly there now. We're just getting that round the base of the plant, and at this point I'm just going to do that because I want to level it, and I'll push down on that side. It was slightly lopsided. Well, now's the time to straighten it up. You do it after the roots start taking hold. You do that to the pot, you'll break some roots. We don't want to do that. Okay, so we're up near the base of the plant now. Another important thing when you're doing orchids, at some point or another I'm going to want to pour a lot of water in there. If I get too close to the top of the pot, half of the media at the top of the pot is going to come out over the sides, which we don't want, because then we have to top it up again. Okay, so last little check to see that the plant is central. The new growths have got plenty of room to move forward, as you can see. Knocking the whole thing out of the pot again. New growth, maturing new growth, maturing new growth, smaller, fresh new growth, fresh new growth, fresh new growth. So the new growth has got plenty of room to go into. Alright, roots are well down in there. They will now fill that pot, and I suspect, given it's growing reasonably well at the moment, they're going to do that this year. So I will probably have a lot of new roots showing through towards the edge of this pot by the end of this growing season. The roots that are on there are more than enough to support that plant. There we go then, the final product. It's had a good soak. It's been staked and tied loosely. Never tie canes on dendrobiums too tight. They need air around them, and you have to watch out for leaves getting bent, especially when you make ties. That's not bad. And the final act, I've washed my tag. It now looks like a shiny new one. Well, in fact it's not, it's an old one. Insert that, then I don't forget what the hell it is. Not that I would with this one. And now all I got to do is decide where it's actually going to go. Now it will move away from the light for a couple of weeks. Now I don't mean it's going to go in a dark cupboard. It's actually just going to go away from the brightest place where it would normally live. And that's just so that it doesn't get stressed, basically. It can have time for those roots to settle in and for the new tips to sort of realise they've got a new home and start moving again. So for a week or two I'll keep it away from the brightest light, and I'll actually keep it a bit cooler, because I've just decided while I was saying it that it's actually probably going to go on the floor for a while, where it can stay a bit cooler. There's good airflow down there, and it can just have a week or two to settle in. And then I'll sort of move it up in stages. I'll move it to a middle shelf, and then it can go up on a high shelf probably towards the end of a 3-week, maybe 4-week period. Okay, so one repotted dendrobium, a biggie. The others that I've got to do are not so bad as that one. I say bad, that was a good plant, that was a good root system. You know, you can't complain. So many of the repots that I do, you know, I take it out of the pot and I sort of think, well, I'd better go careful with those 4 roots then, hadn't I? Otherwise I'll lose the plant. You'd have a job to lose a plant like that with a root system like that. It's going to hardly notice the difference, apart from the fact it's in nice fresh media, the mould's gone, some of the moss that was forming around the edge of the pot's gone. Yeah, it'll pick up quickly. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye for now.